Hi, everyone. We're going to do something a little bit different today where instead of having a live meeting, I'm going to explain a couple of things through this video. I'll do some examples, and then you guys will do some problems that follow these examples for practice. Um, Even though I'm not here live to answer questions for you, remember you can text me anytime you want. You can send me an email. So I'm definitely here for you if you've got questions. Okay, so the topic that we're going to talk about is parallel and perpendicular lines. So before we can get into the examples, I need to tell you a little bit about how they work. As an aside, I would suggest that you get a piece of paper and a pencil so you can write this stuff down. That way you've got notes to refer back to when it's time for you to do the questions. So the first thing we're going to talk about is parallel lines. And those are lines that just never cross each other. So for example, these two lines never cross. They go on forever, and they just stay side by side. So if we were to graph them, we would see that, like, let's pretend that this graph went like up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and the slope just kept going like that. Well, if that was going to happen, then the line that sits next to it must have also taken the same steps, up 1 over 2. So what we know about parallel lines is because they travel in the same pattern, they always have this same slope. So for example, if I said y equals 1 over 2x plus 4 and y equals 1 over 2x minus 3, I know that those are parallel lines because I can see that they have the same m, the same slope. The 4 and the -3 that I put there, those don't really matter because those are the y-intercepts, and all that we're saying is it doesn't matter what the y-intercepts are, it just matters what the slope is. Okay, the other type of line that we're going to talk about is perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines are ones that they form a right angle, so they look like this. And a right angle is just, that's where you guys might have seen this before. It's like a 90-degree angle. So it's like perfectly straight like that. And so if you think about what the slopes of those would do, let's say that this line went like up 2 over 3. So maybe that's what this slope looks like. Well, in order to make a right angle, the other slope must have done the opposite thing. So this one would have been going like down 3 over 2. So you can see how, like, they have to be doing opposite things in order to make a right angle like that. So what we say about their slopes is they are opposite reciprocals. So the word opposite just means if one was positive, the other is negative. And you guys know what the word reciprocal means, which is if you have a fraction, you flip it upside down, that makes the reciprocal. So as an example, if I gave you y equals 3/7 x minus 2 and y equals -7/3 x plus 1. If you look at the slopes of those two lines, so that's this number and this number, those are the slopes, and they have, one's positive, one's negative, and the fraction is flipped upside down. So when we talk about perpendicular lines, we're looking to see that those fractions are flipped. Okay, so that brings us to the examples. So here's one, which says, write the equation of a line that passes through the point 4, 5 and is parallel to y equals 3 over 2x minus 4. So we're going to treat this similar to other problems we've done, but what we're going to do first is I'm going to underline the fact that this says parallel. That tells me I need to keep the same slope. So when I look at the equation that they gave me, I can see that the slope is this number, 3 over 2. So that is what I'm going to use for the m in y equals mx plus b. And then the point, we're going to use that as the x and the y the same way that we've done before, and we're going to solve for b the same way that we've done before. So I'm going to plug in the 5 for the y, and then I'm going to plug in the fraction 3/2 for m, and then I'll plug the 4 in for x. So this is times 4 plus b. And then from here, it should feel exactly like the other problems that you guys have done, where you just multiply this piece together. So 3/2 times 4 ends up being 6. So this is 5 equals 6 plus b. You can use a calculator for that if you need to. And then you are going to minus 6 from both sides, so you get -1. And then don't forget your final answer is always y equals blank x plus blank. You fill that in with the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope was 3/2, and then the y-intercept was the b value, -1. Okay, I'm gonna go through one more example with you. So this was an example of talking about parallel, where you use the same slope. Now we're gonna do one that talks about perpendicular. So this is where they are opposite slopes. So this says, write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2,5 and is perpendicular to the line y equals -1/3 x plus 7. So because it's perpendicular, this tells me that I have to use the opposite reciprocal. What that means is that instead of just using this number for the m, my new m is going to be, I have to flip that fraction, that's what reciprocal means, and then since it's negative, I have to make it positive. So it's just going to become +3. This point is still x comma y. I still use y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to plug in the 5 for the y, the 3 for the m, the 2 for the x, and then plus b. This becomes 6. It actually looks a lot like the other example we just did because we're going to get the same answer. That's just a coincidence. We end up getting -6, b is -1. So our final answer, y equals blank x plus blank. We put the m goes in the first blank, so that's 3, and then the b goes in the last blank, so that's the -1. That's it. So all of the work that you're writing out, it should feel similar to what we've been doing recently. The biggest thing to remember is that when it says parallel, like it did on this one, we just use whatever slope they gave you, that's what you use for m. And when it says perpendicular, that's when you have to flip the slope to get a new m. Okay, so what I'm gonna ask you guys to do is these 4 questions. So you will notice that the first 2 talk about being parallel, and then the last 2 talk about perpendicular. So feel free to rewind this video, pause it, do whatever you need to, but these examples work just like the ones that I just did. Again, text me if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm expecting that you guys upload a photo of these 4 problems, a picture of it, onto Google Classroom by midnight tonight. All right, good luck, guys. See you later.